Hello and welcome back to the Manufacturing Culture Podcast. I'm your host, Jim Mayer. Buckle up, folks, because today we've got an episode that will set the stage for something huge. In just a few short weeks, I'm going to be taking the show on the road to the Wisconsin Manufacturing Technology Show, WIMTS 2023. And today, I'm thrilled to introduce the visionaries who make that event what it is, a can't miss experience for anyone in our industry. First up, we have Elizabeth Lein. Think of her as a conductor of a grand symphony of experiences. With her background in hospitality, event planning, and content marketing, Elizabeth orchestrates events that leave you humming their tune for days. Now serving as a sales and event manager at Expo Productions, Inc., she's a maestro we didn't know we needed, but can't imagine the show without. Oh, and get this, she's an active volunteer with spousal support groups for military families. Elizabeth not only serves her community, but does so while balancing an incredibly demanding role. That's the kind of dual action we like to see here at the podcast. And then, my friends, we have Jay Partington, a name synonymous with industry excellence. Picture a world-class athlete who's not only set records, but has also coached the next generation to break them. That's Jay in the realm of trade shows. He started out with SME in the 1980s and has since founded and managed multiple trailblazing shows. Now, how many people do you know that can claim that? Jay's had a hand in shaping trade shows from the machine tool shows back in the 80s and 90s to the multi-industry expos of today. And just for good measure, he loves Black Labs, proof that great people have great taste in dogs. And remember, folks, I'll be on the ground at WIMTS 2023, ready to shine the spotlight on you. Have you got a killer company culture? Got a product that's breaking molds? Find me, step up to the mic, and you could be featured in a future episode. So get comfy, because today we're going to deep dive into the minds behind the magic of WIMTS. Let's get this show on the road. Hello, Jay and Elizabeth. Welcome to the Manufacturing Culture Podcast. How are you two doing today?
Hello.
Oh. Hi, Jim.
I love that kind of energy, Jay and Elizabeth. That was fantastic.
Yeah, I woke up.
The coffee kicked in.
The coffee kicked in. Did you give him a Red Bull or something, Elizabeth? I mean,
I spiked his coffee.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much, both of you, for joining us today. We're gonna talk about all things WIMTS. We're going to talk about your backgrounds, how the show came about, and we're going to talk about how trade shows like WIMTS can help with company cultures of manufacturers, right? Because it's a really important part for owners and leaders within manufacturing to get their people to attend these shows, not only so they have the right technology on the floor in their shops, but also to show them that they value them and they value their opinion. And so we're going to walk through all of that today. So I'm really super pumped about this conversation.
Awesome. We are too. We're so excited to be here.
Awesome. So Elizabeth, let's start with you. Walk us through your journey that you've been on in your career. Hospitality, event planning. How did you ultimately land at Expo Productions?
Yeah, it's quite a mix and quite a story. After college, I jumped full force into the hospitality industry. I was the dedicated right after college worker, that was just hustling for the man. And I loved it. And it was awesome. I got to travel. I got to dine at restaurants that I would probably never afford and do some awesome experiences.
Yeah.
And then I had my first son. And thank you. And I had to do a look at myself and say, you can no longer work until 4:00 in the morning, closing a bar down, traveling the world all the time. And I had to adjust. So I started freelancing, advertising and social media. And I did that for the last 5.5 years.
Mm,
And that's been great because it allowed me to stay home with my son, also kind of still have a creative outlook.
yeah.
And then I think it was 4 or 5 months ago now, a family friend approached me and who knew Jay as well and was like, I think you'd be a great fit for this position. And I went and met Jay for a beer for an interview, I was like, okay, I'm sold. You
Yeah,
have
that's the
me
best
here.
interview ever.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
what we do in Wisconsin. We
Uh-huh.
find the nearest beer on the corner. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, okay, this is great. Like, I think I could be a great fit, in this company. And we got to talking, and I think we clicked right away. And the rest is history.
That's awesome. Awesome. And so is that the magic that I saw through the social media posts about uh WIMTS? Is that the experience that you brought? Because all of a sudden I was on social media and started seeing WIMTS everywhere. And it
Mhm.
wasn't just LinkedIn, it wasn't just Instagram, it wasn't just Facebook, it was everywhere.
Oh,
And,
I'd
and
love to
so
hear that.
is that what you brought to the table there?
Yes, I would like to say, I think I came in like full running. I said to Jay, I was like, we have to like up our social media game. This is, we need to get our face out there. We need to up our image. And when you reached out to me and we started talking, I was like, that's awesome to hear, across the country that you're seeing what we're doing in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Absolutely.
So I
Absolutely.
love that. Yeah.
And just so people are aware, I did reach out to Elizabeth. I saw one of her posts, or the WIMTS posts written by her, um, and I sent her a message on Instagram saying, "Hey, have you ever thought about having a podcast there? Because
Mm,
if you haven't, I'd love to be a part of this." And for the listeners who are well aware, this will be the first time that I'm taking this show on the road to something like a trade show. I've
mm.
done remote interviews before, but they've always been self-contained. So, really looking forward to this. And thanks for having me along on this journey, Elizabeth.
So when you reached out to me on Instagram through WIMTS, and you proposed recording live on our floor, I took it to Jay and I was like, this is going to be an awesome opportunity. And also something I think that shows like FabTech and IMTS are beginning to do, having podcasters like you getting on the floor, talking to exhibitors, getting face to face. I think this is the new direction that we should be going. And it's awesome that you're jumping on this train with us.
Thank you again, and there's no place that I'd rather be in early October than Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So Jay, let's change gears a little bit. Talk a little bit about your history, your legacy that you bring to
Wow.
WIMTS is truly remarkable. I mean,
Mhm.
you've been doing this since I was literally in diapers. So,
Yeah.
so can you take
So
us
was
on
I.
your
A little older though, but
different type of diapers? So
yeah.
can you share your journey through the world of trade shows, and what are some defining moments that have shaped your career?
Well, when we kind of chatted earlier, you mentioned about trade shows, especially machine tool shows, in every state. In the early 80s, SME, Society of Manufacturing Engineers, used to do a machine tool show in almost every state.
Wow.
Cecil Darnell, who used to be there, said he wanted to be his own competition. Lucky for me, they didn't have enough people, and I was in the event industry and knew some people with SME, and they hired me to help with their Milwaukee show and their Iowa show. And I didn't know that much about machine tools or manufacturing. I had come from the boat show industry,
Okay.
and it was there that with the Milwaukee show, they ran it oh, every other year opposite IMTS, and SME then got a whole new slate of new people in, and they got away from having the local shows. And by 1989, they had almost eliminated all but maybe three or four, which are today East Tech and West Tech and stuff like that.
Got
But
it. Okay. So
um,
that's a history of those. I call them the directional shows, but that's
right,
okay. That
yeah.
makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, and I think out by you, they had some separate smaller shows and then combined them to make East Tech. But so I went to SME and I said, "Are you abandoning Milwaukee?" And they said, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, do you have a problem if I took it over and did it?" And they said, "Yeah, good luck. Go ahead, you can have it." Well, I got to know and it formed every show, any event that we do. um, my philosophy with my company is we get in with the people who run that industry. So we immediately have formed a advisory committee, which is basically the exhibitors.
Mhm.
And I got with the four or five of the biggest distributors with the major lines. And we sat and said, what would be the perfect show? And what didn't you like about the SME show that was held in 87? And besides that, we got with some of the universities and tech schools and said, how can we help bring more education to the shows? And our first show in 1989, we ended up getting like 3,000 people to a small hall on State Fair Park that's no longer there, and it was a 2-day event, and we tried to move everything in 2 days, which was a mistake, but we worked all night, and here we are. We've been doing this show every other year since 1989.
Wow. That's really neat. And it's neat for me. Been to many West Tech and East Tech, South Tech, Hughes Tech, the directional shows. And so it's neat because I never knew the history of that. And now a little bit of history on WIMTS as well. So what goes into planning this kind of a show? I mean, I can't imagine this is like something that you can just do in a couple of weeks, right? So, how long's the process to plan a show
Well,
like this?
I love telling people that what we really do is we're building a factory in 3 days, and then
Wow.
we're running that factory in 3 days, and then we take it apart in a day and a half, and then it's gone. So,
So,
but
in 7.5 days, you get a factory built, running, and dismantled.
right. Because with the amount of machinery that comes in, there's different phases. So when you move, you have to deal with the machinery movers, and especially we'll have some product that's going to be in some of the booths that this year that are 40, 55,000 pound machines,
Wow.
and they also have like conveyors, and they'll have other things that'll be attached to it. Um, so it isn't that easy to organize all the labor to bring in. And luckily for Wisconsin, we are non-union on some things. So there's some things that we just require to have union because they're just better at it
Sure.
and more skilled. And it, especially machinery moving, we require it. But you can still hand deliver your own stuff in. We're at State Fair Park, so it's a little more casual. And when we originally got the advisory committee together, they said, "Could you treat the exhibitors as if it was our show?" And we have done that all these times. With how would you like to be bringing in your own stuff with your own truck? How would you like to have a cup of coffee free when you get inside.
Sure.
Let's have something better at the catering or at the concession stands. These were all ideas that, we brought from listening to the exhibitors. Now we're bringing in the machines. Now you got to have electricians and mechanics and everything set it up.
Nope.
Then everything's set on the move in. And now you bring in all of the salespeople, and then the bosses come in, and of course things change immediately. And then hopefully during the show, there's lots of activity, and then on the out, all of a sudden, here's the electricians back and everybody else back, and we take it all down and go away. So
Awesome.
It's dealing with a lot of different people and different, different contractors. So,
awesome. Elizabeth, with such a historic show, right? I mean, this show's been around since the late 80s, early 90s, in this format with Jay. How have you brought your experiences to, for lack of a better term, a slow moving industry, to change it into something that is more progressively forward thinking as far as what the attendees want in 2023?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think coming into this office, Jay has been here for forever and carries a huge legacy.
Not ever.
Yeah, forever. Forever.
So old.
I know. But there is so much to learn from him. And even when you speak to the exhibitors, like they'll go back to 10, 15 years ago and talk about, the previous show years and what they did back then. For example, I had lunch last week with one of our exhibitors to go over some details. And we were talking about the previous shows. And I was brainstorming with him for this year, what we're going to do, what's new. And he was super impressed with, the freshness, I think, that we're bringing into it this year. We've really vamped up our social media presence, as you mentioned before.
Yeah.
We did not have an Instagram until I believe May of this year. And I walked into Jay's office and I was like, I made us an Instagram. And he was like, all right, okay, whatever. And
at least I didn't say, what's that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but we rolled with that, and that's been great for us because we've gotten exhibitors through there. We've reached, an attendee base. We've reached individuals like you who are helping promote our show, and it's been a great tool for us. I would say that I would like to toot my own horn and say that I've brought a little bit of freshness in that regard, and just really amped up what,
Well, Jim, if I can add to tooting her horn, she is brought in what is the attitude of someone her age. As you know, labor and skilled labor is a huge, huge problem, especially in manufacturing.
Yeah.
And how do we get to these younger people that are engineers or buyers in a factory, and having Elizabeth with her attitude and her knowledge of that age group really helps. And as more of my friends are retiring and the skilled labor in these factories are still keeping a lot of these guys on because they can't hire. I have the expertise to get a hold of those guys, but it's Elizabeth who's talking to our younger engineers, and that is so important. And besides that, she's doing a great job.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Nice job. So how many exhibitors do you guys have for 2023?
Yeah, we're at almost 200. So it's a little less of that, 185, something like that.
Okay. Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, but you got to consider that a lot of the booths are like 40 by 60 booths, and if that distributor comes in, they have Mazak and some of the big machinery, but they'll have 4 or 5 lines.
Right.
So then each one of those lines then bring in people. So
Yeah.
it's almost like their booth is a city, and you could add maybe 15 more exhibitors, if you want to call them exhibitors, in that booth.
Yeah.
But we consider them one exhibitor.
Got it. Got it.
So
Well, I like that.
that
So
count, the count is really more than 185.
yeah, that's awesome. So what kind of innovations, what are some companies and technology that are highlighting 2023?
Well, as you can tell, I mean, AI is huge.
Yeah.
Robots is everything, especially if you're looking to solve a problem with labor, even.
Yeah.
But also, the main reason to come to our show is for someone to build their expertise and keep your operations current, giving you a competitive edge. And so if you're coming to the show and you're not into robots at all or anything with thinking of automation in the future, um, I would worry. You need to be thinking in that direction. So that is what we're talking about. And so majority of the booths are that, but we do have we got lasers and EDM machines, and obviously machining centers and 3D and your basic saws and such. When you get here, Jim, you will notice that a lot of our attendees that are probably going to come in your booth, and they are going to be more the job shops, the smaller stuff, because Wisconsin is made up of a lot of job shops.
Yeah.
And so these guys are looking for a knockoff machine, but then here they sit in on one of our innovations centers or our learning centers, and can hear about cybersecurity or anything to do with robots and even how to finance,
Wow.
to get in to the robots. We have a couple seminars that are just really going to be good.
Yeah, I'm super excited about our seminar schedule. It's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's a couple of them that these guys that were put together. You could charge probably $100 just to sit in and listen to them, and we're offering it for free.
Yeah, that's the cool thing about our show. There's no extra added cost to attend our seminar program, which I think
amazing.
Is awesome.
Yeah, that's really unique.
Well, there might be if you see me at the bar, they could buy me a beer.
The Hub Pub, is that's the name, right?
The Hub Pub, right behind your booth.
I love
Jim.
it. I love it. I can't wait. I'm gonna have to really exercise some self-restraint over the course of the couple of days I'm there. Or these episodes could get out of hand really quickly.
Yeah.
Well, you can always go over and get a cheese curd and maybe a corn dog and a brat. You got to have a
refuel the Wisconsin way.
Absolutely. I'm okay with that. I'm okay.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to the food.
Right. We'll get you some Kringle and some cream puffs. Well, I also have something that I would like you to probably think about that you might want to add too is, that we do a robot competition, and all these schools, the tech schools, as well as high schools, come and compete there. You need to talk to some of those kids. And so we'll be having people there all day, Tuesday and Wednesday.
That would be fantastic.
But that is a thing that, you talk to these young kids and you find out that our future might be in good hands. The competition last year or 2 years ago, the high school winner did the competition and was far better than the tech schools.
Really?
And
that's cool.
It surprised everybody, and he was just brilliant.
That's
just
cool.
Brilliant. And his mother didn't know if he should get into the industry. And because her idea of the industry was that it's dirty, greasy. These places are not safe, and there's no money in it.
Yeah.
And that was the mother's point of view.
Yeah.
And
we battled that perception. I mean, Andrew Crow has
yep.
kind of coined the term the 3Ds: dark, dirty, dangerous.
Yep.
But that's, as we progress as an industry, the parents who are raising kids now, their parents were the ones who worked in the factories of the
Absolutely.
30s, 40s, 50s, and even into the 60s and 70s. And so they saw their parents come home covered in grease, missing fingers, things of that nature. And so they've got this perception of manufacturing of exactly that. And so that's part of why we've got this skills gap in the industry, because they're pushing their kids for what they think is something better, right? A better future for them. And that in the US and a lot of the world is going to university. And so that we've had entire generations that have skipped manufacturing technology programs in high school, and then missed opportunities to get into the workforce. So yeah, I love that. And so what's the name of the robotics competition that you have there on site?
Team Automation is what it will be called this year. And it's
Awesome.
sponsored by Lab Midwest.
Awesome.
And they're a company here in Wisconsin.
That's so cool. I'm so excited. I
Yeah,
mean, I've been on the website, but I didn't know that there was that, right? So I think that's awesome. I'm so excited for that.
Yeah, we are too. Yes.
Well, for years we had done welding competitions at the show, and then in the last few years we added the robotics.
Wow, that's really neat. I love that. So, how do you think a show like WIMTS can affect team dynamics and company culture of some of these manufacturers? Like you said, smaller manufacturers, right? Job shops. They're
Right.
in the area.
Yeah, we do get well, in the 90s we used to get bus loads that would come out of like Oshkosh Truck or
Sure.
Mercury Outboards, some of the big groups, and they would come down for the whole day. Now we don't have those big um, groups, because now they send buying teams.
Sure.
And it is so smart of the manufacturers to pick and choose who's involved in the buying of a capital goods product. And so besides having, the buyer and the owner, you might have the lead operator or the plant foreman, and the four of them come down and look at stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's it's real easy, especially the younger engineers and such, to just look online at some of these machines.
Mm-hmm.
But when you come to a show, you get to talk to the guy who actually designed the machine.
Right.
You get to talk to the guys that service it. They will be the ones that will be dealing with you all the way along the line. So it is always great to see the machinery actually up and running.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think that COVID gave a lot of people a couple of different feelings about in-person events, right? And there was a lot of talk about trade shows kind of dwindling and not bringing as much value because of that online presence. And I think that again, COVID kind of accelerated that. But in my experience, at least in our industry, I've seen trade shows come back with a bang. I mean, I have seen some of the coolest technology, some of the biggest crowds at trade shows in the last 2 years than I can remember in almost 20 years in the industry.
Right. And obviously, we've decided that I'm a dinosaur and been around for a while. That I have friends who do produce shows, and I've been talking to them. Anything that has a show like that has occurred since January has been a barn burner. It's been really good.
That's great.
The attendances have been way up. We're hoping we do the same.
Mhm.
But and you're right on the mark, Jim. The people are saying they're going in and they are seeing the booths being far, far more educating, and that they're bringing in new stuff. I know that you've probably been to IMTS in the past, and if you went in a booth and saw, look at that, the same old knockoff of a Bridgeport,
Yeah.
Same thing they had last year, that type of thing. Now you go and you see the latest. You
Absolutely.
go, wow,
Yeah.
how does that work?
It's been
And they
pretty
made
amazing.
it a 3D. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely. So let's kind of switch topics a little bit and talk about the networking aspect of WIMTS, right? You've got the hub that will be operating all day long. What other networking type events are a part of the show?
Yes. So at the end of both of our show days, Tuesday and Wednesday, we are doing something called Brew and Connect. And we are having 2 local breweries from Milwaukee, Lakefront Brewery and Mobcraft Brewery, are both going to come in and kind of give a 15-20 minute seminar, more or less, about their beer manufacturing process. And we're going to pass out samples. They're going to talk about what they're doing, their new innovations on the beer manufacturing side, and use it as a end of day closer, end of day networker. Let's say you walked by a booth earlier in the afternoon, and this is just going to be your second chance to reconnect at the end of the day with a beer, Wisconsin style. And I think we're really excited for it. So, it's going to be awesome.
and you've been to enough trade shows that at the end of the day, the exhibitors are want to get out of there. So they'll probably all come and, be part of this seminar too.
Absolutely.
Especially when we start passing out the beer as it starts. Yeah.
I've never been to an IMTS, whether exhibiting or as an attendee or any other trade show for that matter, and not seeing exhibitors like almost laying on the ground with a beer in their hand at the end of every day, right? It's such a taxing experience, physically and mentally, but everybody has that cold beverage at the end of the day. So I think that's great that you're doing it there on site. You're providing people a different avenue to connect, because that dynamic changes when you go from inside their booth. You've got that very defined buyer-seller relationship. When you do it in a networking place like the hub or the hub pub, that changes that dynamic, and it's no longer just that buyer-seller dynamic. It changes to, hey, let's just raise a glass together and talk about Black Labs.
Yeah.
I don't have any here today, but the hub, it will also be designed with a lot of couches, little talk areas, and charging units for your phone. And it was brought about because of the smaller booths, the 10 by 10s, that said, I get 1 or 2 people in my booth. We're crowded and people just pass us by. And we can't go to the concession stand. It's completely full. All the tables are full. You got a place where I can meet with a customer.
Yeah.
I go, oh my God, we got to make something. And then if we're going to make it, we got to make it Wisconsin style.
Mhm.
Put a bar in there. And
That's huge.
The hub.
I love it. That's fantastic.
Back in the 80s and 90s, all my shows were sponsored by beer manufacturers. Milwaukee's the beer capital.
Well,
so,
and back then you had cigarette and beer people sponsoring race cars and stuff like that, right? It was a different time.
Oh, I know. Yeah. And I come from the beer industry. I was with Schlitz Beer all through high school. And no, I was.
You were a product tester?
No, I actually was the college rep for Schlitz.
Were you really? That's awesome.
Yeah, and I had had to throw parties and organize events to
Oh,
sell beer.
you
Somebody had to
you make
do
that
it.
sound so tough.
Oh gosh, the sororities were so hard to work with. I had to be there constantly.
Oh, that's awesome. So, Elizabeth, for those people attending for the first time, especially in that younger generation, what kind of tips, insights, direction can you give people to make their experience that much better?
Yeah, I think really just coming in with an open mind. And I think it's tough with my generation to speak because we are closed off to, large crowds
Mhm.
and going to introduce ourselves and really just putting ourselves into the mix. And so what I would say is to take your walls down. Don't be afraid to approach people. Don't be afraid to start conversations, and don't be afraid to ask questions, because we're the place where you can get all of that.
Yeah,
And just really be receptive to the environment that you're in, that you can have those types of opportunities to get face to face.
that's
So that's what
awesome.
I would say. Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, my only hint would be is people do their homework before they come to the
Oh,
show.
yeah, that's a good one.
Plan who you want to see, why you want to see them, and bring a blueprint.
Yeah,
Bring them around. The real sharp people make appointments with some of these guys and say, I'm going to be in your booth at 9:30. Will you have time to sit with me and talk about that EDM machine that I'm interested in?
sure.
Uh, and the exhibitors love it.
I'm
They
sure they do. Yeah.
At the same time, they're also calling people to make appointments. But for somebody new, um, if you can't find who you might want to talk to, they could call here, and Elizabeth or myself would be glad to, line up
Yeah,
something with
facilitate that.
anybody.
That's
Yeah,
awesome. That's
we have
awesome.
a lot of guys that will be attending the show that the banks are putting together a little bus and bringing them all up. They'll stop for lunch or something and then attend the show. And they had appointments all lined up with
That's
different
great.
people.
I love it.
So,
And
yeah,
anybody who's listening can get a hold of me or just stop by the Hub Pub, and you can be on the show. I mean, you can either schedule some time with me to sit down and talk. You can stop by or just grab me. I'll be in the brightest blue shirt that says Manufacturing Culture Podcast that I was able to find. So
Love
I
that.
will stick out like a sore thumb, but that's the point. So grab me as well if you want to have a conversation, or if you need any help networking, right? For those
Mhm.
younger people who may not feel comfortable, use me as your buffer. I'm there for you.
Yeah, and that's another thing to add is this in Wisconsin, this could be the first trade show experience that some of these recent college graduates will be attending.
Sure.
So, this is fresh, this is new. And yeah, if you see me, Jay, Cheryl, or yourself, and you have questions or you want us to introduce you to an exhibitor, feel free to stop by and grab us. And we would love to facilitate those opportunities with you.
That's awesome. I love
Mhm.
it.
but we could go one more step. If somebody said, I really don't know how to solve my problem, I don't know who to call or who I want to see, we can kind of uh, call one of our exhibitors and have them call and they're on our board. We have kind of an advisory board, and they would probably determine who they should talk to and help with their problem.
I love
And
it.
yeah, and we're known for that. This is goes all year round. We try to help the industry because if the industry's good, it'll be good to us.
Yep.
So we try to get people to, especially in Wisconsin, to manufacture more in Wisconsin.
That's
Mhm.
great. So you guys are more than just a show. You facilitate connections as well.
Right. We are a marketing opportunity for our exhibitors, but we are an educational opportunity for our attendees.
That's great. I love it. Um, so Elizabeth, Jay, how do people get connected with WIMTS? Give a couple of shameless plugs, social media handles, website, all of that kind of fun stuff.
Yeah, so we are across the board on social media now. We're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on Threads, we are on LinkedIn. And of course, you can reach our office by email.
And what's the website, Elizabeth?
We are just WIMTS.com.
That's nice and simple. It's easier than manufacturingculturepodcast.com.
Well, I just want to add for us old guys, if you still use that thing called a telephone, you can call us at 262-367-5500.
I love it. As we wrap up this episode, what haven't I asked you about the show that you want to share with the listeners today?
Well, we are a tradition, which I have mentioned. I do think that anybody that is coming to the show and should come to the show should think about what's going on in the industry right now.
Sure.
Where is your skills? Where are you thinking robots? Are you thinking of retooling? Whatever needs to be done. It's a good opportunity that does not cost too much just to get here, and it's a way that you're gonna make your company more current and very competitive.
I love it. Elizabeth, what about you?
I would say that if you're attending our show, you need to take advantage of our seminar schedule. I think it's a great learning opportunity. If you are a job shop, you might not have the tools and the resources to learn about the latest and how you can use ChatGPT or how AI is transforming advanced manufacturing. A million different things that we literally are getting the brightest and most educated minds right in front of you. And you can get face to face. And we are doing, a seminar. And then after that is the questions and answers where we're opening up for a discussion. And I think that's a great opportunity to talk about how it applies to your shop or your business and things like that.
I love it. That's fun. I'm excited.
We have one. We have one that's securing and maintaining government contracts. I mean, for a small group, they might not think that you can't get a government contract. This alone would make it worth your whole year if you connected with Nick at the show and got a contract.
Absolutely.
But there's so many good seminars. You should come anyhow. And at least the one with the beer.
Yeah, exactly. Don't miss that one.
And so for anybody still on the fence about attending, what is that, thing that's going to push them over the edge to make it to the show?
Oh, well, you're going to be there. You're going to be there. That's what's going to put us over the top.
Jay, you're too kind. I love it. That I'm going to isolate that, and that's going to be the new podcast commercial. I love it. Thank you.
Oh my gosh.
No, that's
what count on it now.
Yeah, absolutely. Just keep me as a mainstay. Do you guys do this every 2 years, or is it every year?
Every 2 years, because we're so close to Chicago that IMTS is, grabbing everyone. We have to be on the off years.
Yeah. Well, I look forward to hopefully bringing some value and
so you don't want a booth at our wedding show? Is that out?
Yeah.
I mean, we can talk about that, guys, but not necessarily what I know.
Well, we also do an Indulge Milwaukee, which is a food show and liquor. So we could put you between two bourbons.
That sounds right up my alley. That definitely sounds right up my alley. A little bit more than the wedding show.
Yeah, it's fun, switching from the manufacturing focus because I don't know anything about this industry. And in the last couple months, I know some stuff now, and that's pretty cool.
It's been a crash course, huh?
Yeah, like listening to podcasts like you and a lot of other technology podcasts, I've like developed this whole new, interest that is, so eye-opening, because I would have never put myself or got into this industry if it weren't for working for Expo Productions.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I mentioned, it is weird now because after this show closes, we will be switching from manufacturing to full-blown weddings. So it's a total.
I go walking into her office and I say, okay, take your hard hat off and put your wedding veil on. We got to talk about this.
Yeah, that's about as opposite end of this customer experience spectrum as you could get.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, thank you both very much for being on today. I really appreciate your time, your conversation. This was great. I'm so excited to be a part of this and to be there live, and just talk to the people that are not only exhibiting, but are attending, sit down and talk with you guys, raise a glass, all of those things. So thank you very much.
Awesome.
Oh, thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, this was
we're so excited. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, wow, that's been an absolute ride, folks. It's been funny. We've talked about Black Labs. We've talked about machinery. We've talked about culture. You've just heard from this amazingly dynamic power duo behind WIMTS, Elizabeth Lein and Jay Partington. We talked about everything from the ins and outs of planning this epic show to how attending a show like this and attending WIMTS in particular can supercharge your company culture and bring new technology to the table. If you found yourself jotting down notes or nodding your head in agreement, you should definitely attend and come see the magic happen in person. So mark your calendars, October 3rd, 4th, and 5th in Milwaukee. Please join us, be there. It'll be a great experience. But before you go, I've got a couple of quick favors to ask. If you enjoyed this episode, hop on over to manufacturingculturepodcast.com for more conversations that dig into the nuts and bolts of our awesome industry. And while you're at it, do us a solid favor. Share this episode with your friends, colleagues, or anyone who's passionate about the future of manufacturing. And don't forget to rate and review the show. Your feedback drives us up the charts and keeps us delivering the content you love. Lastly, again, if you were on the fence about attending WIMTS, let me tell you, this is an event you can't afford to miss. Come join us, rub elbows with industry leaders, discover game-changing technology, and maybe even join me for a quick interview for a future episode. So everybody, have a great day and keep making things.